Hello, Jewel.
Hey,
You hear me?
yes, I can hear you. You can hear me?
I hear you good. I hear you good. And I hope everyone else can hear me good also. Thank you for joining. This is Ask Pastor Tim. This is our 11th episode, and we are happy to be with you. Give me just one moment here. I just need to adjust something.
I can't hear you now, whatever you adjusted. Yeah, now I can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I was had to make an adjustment there because my head was cut off.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. All right. So we're looking good. All right. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Ask Pastor Tim, the 11th episode. We are super glad that you are here with us. Tag somebody, shoot a message out to someone to come join us. We're going to be talking tonight. I have my beautiful daughter, Jewel, with me, and we're going to be talking about offenses. This is a third installation in the relationship series. It becomes a series now because we've done it several times, and we probably will do it a few more times as we talk about the various aspects of relationships, and how they affect our lives. We wanted to kind of dive into this subject tonight, offenses. And there's a few reasons why we wanted to do this. It's a big part of relationship. Relationships are the reason offenses exist. No relationship, you wouldn't be offended unless you get offended with yourself, So offenses is a very important part of relationships, and it's a very important part, or rather, how we handle offenses says a lot about our ability to not just be in relationship with someone or even a group, but it speaks volumes about how successful, how productive, how cooperative, how well we are able to relate with others. And it is an indication of how ready you are to be in a relationship. If you can't even handle offenses, man, you probably need to back up from pursuing a relationship if that's you. Okay. So I'm going to say a quick word of prayer, and then we're going to dive into this subject. So Father, we thank you, we bless you, and we praise you. This we offer to you as every time we come on this live, we give this time to you, we offer this time to you. And Lord, we pray that you would cause us to say something that will be meaningful to those who are hearing. We pray that we will have the questions and the answers, Lord, that reflect your wisdom, your knowledge, and your understanding. So we give this time to you. Lead, guide, and orchestrate our thinking, our speaking, and our doing. And we know that you will receive glory as we do that in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, Joe, you want me to give a little, you want to jump in, or you want me to give just a little context to?
You can give some context.
All right. So, as I've been the past couple of weeks, just looking at some things since our last live, and it's come to mind that there has been over 130 mass shootings this year already. That's mind-boggling, and it's crazy because we have to be careful not to become desensitized to what's happening, because we will not do what's necessary to correct our errors or fix our ways if we become desensitized to what's going on. So it's a painful thing. It's a difficult time, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, but we have to deal with it. We've got to answer the questions. We have to solve the problems that we can solve. And can I say to you, we can solve this problem. We can, but we can't do it if we're selfish. We can't do it if we're prideful. We can't do it if we think that our way is the only way and I want what I want and what you want doesn't matter. That's not how life works. That's not the reality of life unless you're living on an island by yourself. And even then, you'll get sick and tired of yourself. No, we have to be willing and able to work together to come up with solutions that help us to be our best selves and live our best lives. People don't have to commit the crimes that they're committing. People don't have to go around shooting people and shooting babies. You know, we can have a sensible way of cohabitating on the earth, but we've got to be willing to learn how to deal with each other. And so this concept about offenses really is at the heart of the matter. Okay, these people are not planning these attacks because, oh, people are nice and the world is nice and I just love everybody and man, what a great time to be alive. No, they're planning these attacks because there's stuff in their hearts that's never been dealt with. They're planning these attacks because they have vendettas. They want to get revenge. They want to hurt people. Why? Because they've been hurt. They've been misunderstood. Okay. And there's a list of things that we can put in there that they have been, that's causing them to come to this place where they want to make the choices that they're making to take other people's lives. But I promise you, at the crux of it all is offense. They have been offended in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And so I thought this would be a wonderful way to approach relationship, because sometimes we just look at where we are in relationship and don't consider, you know, how important a very simple decision like who you decide you're going to friend on Facebook can be. It used to be who you decided you would go to the movie with. Now it's just who you decide to click a button, who you decide to like. You know, these are important decisions. And the problem with that is, being in the digital world, you really don't know who's on the other end of the screen. Mm-hmm. You don't know those people. You haven't had an opportunity to build any kind of relationship, and it is dangerous. Okay. And so we wanted to give a practical way that we can begin to shift the narrative and help to make things better. Will this conversation stop people from committing mass shootings? Probably not. I'm pretty sure it won't. But will it help someone who may potentially, okay, end up in one of those types of situations one day? I believe with everything within me that it can, and if we are committed to it, that it will. Okay, so that's a little context why we're talking about this tonight and relating it to connecting it to relationship. You know, everybody wants to be in a relationship. Everyone wants to be loved. Mm-hmm. It is a universal thing. We all want to be and deserve to be loved. In fact, we all are loved. May not be by the person that you want to be loved by, but we are all loved by our Creator first and foremost, because He saw fit to release us into the earth with an assignment that would cause us and help us to be able to share in what He was doing in the earth, the bigger picture, the master plan. So I don't want to go off into that right now, because that'll take me down another road. But I wanted to give some context to why we're talking about relationship, why we're talking about offenses tonight. All right? Yeah. Okay. So, Jewel, now I'm going to toss it over to you and let you.
All right, cool. So, I mean, you talked about it. The overarching question is really how offenses can correlate to mass shootings, and the desire for each person to feel loved and possibly not can lead to that. Could you talk just a little bit more about what you think? Like, obviously, you know, we're not in the mind of a mass shooter, but what type of things from your, professional perspective, concerning mental health and things like that, what are some things that you think, I guess, that would cause offense to lead to something like that?
So, it really on the most basic level, it's crazy, right? We are all the same. Okay. We're all the same. As many differences as we have even more things that are common to every human being. We are human beings. Okay. And we all have mind. We are all spirit, soul, and body. And we all have minds, wills, and emotions. Everybody. Okay. Now your mind might be jacked up or your emotions might be all over the place, but you have them. And so whatever happens to people in their lives gets processed through their mind, will, and emotions. Okay. And so because everyone does want to be loved, all right, we have to go back to the most basic place. We have to go back to where we all started from day one, before we had any experiences, before there was anything tainting our view of anything, before we had any knowledge about anything. Now, I'm saying that, now mind you, there are certain things that are transferred in the womb from a parent, from a mother, okay? For instance, and I'm not going to go into that part, but just so you can understand that I'm not saying that, because everybody don't start the same way. There are all kinds of conditions and all kinds of circumstances. There are people who are products of rape. And I mean, there are all kinds of situations in which a person comes into the world. Okay. Putting that aside. Okay. When you get here, okay, you start with a clean slate. Okay. And so you have the opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop. What helps you to learn, grow, and develop? Your surrounding, okay? Who you're connected to, who you are, who you are relying on to raise you, to teach you, because we all have to be taught. We don't know. We're coming to the world. It's the first time in the world, right? You haven't been here before. When our parents used to say, oh, you see a kid that acts like they're really old, they would say, okay, he's been here before. But the truth of it is, none of us have been here before, okay? And so you come into a new opportunity, a new experience, and new experiences. And you don't have any control over those experiences as a baby, okay? So we have to start from that place, the place where we are most pure, okay, and most innocent, all right? There, we are all the same, all wanting and needing someone to guide us and to help point us and steer us in a way that will help us to grow and develop effectively. Okay, so that we can be effective and productive citizens in the earth. Okay, that is the hope for every child, okay, that's born into the earth, that child would become something great in the earth. Not only is that the hope, but that is the plan. That's the plan of the Creator, is that every person that comes into the earth will, first of all, has been aimed at something that they can do and be and become in the earth that will cause them to have a high level of esteem as it concerns who they are and their ability to be and receive and give love. So people's circumstances and their situations begin to dictate that. So, we can paint a scenario for all kinds of different cases that people are living in, are born into, and then they have to live in. All right? Take that, put that aside, because it's all different. Okay? Everyone still has an opportunity to learn and grow, regardless of what your circumstances, your situations are. Everyone has an opportunity to learn and grow. And it's not fair, and it doesn't feel fair, doesn't seem fair, that some people seem like they have an easier way than others. It what it is, man. You got what you got. You got the life that you have, and you have to make the most of it. You have to make the best of it. And you have the power and the ability and the authority to make the most of your life, to make it something great, to make it something that will be impactful in the world. I have I call it a poem. It's not really a poem, but it's a written piece, that says when you were born, the plan was not that you should fail, but that you would succeed. It was not that your life should be worthless, but that it would be worthwhile. It was not intended for you to have a negative impact on the world, but a positive one. It was not meant for you to have less than the best, but the very best life has to offer. You were predestined in love to succeed. That means the destiny for your life was determined before you were born, and the decision as to where you should end up and what you would become was not a toss in a hat. It was a well thought out plan to bring you to the full manifestation of expressed love through the maximized potential of your predetermined purpose. That is what I believe about every human being. Okay? And so your opportunity is to develop your greatness in spite of the difficulty of your situation. Okay? And so relationships, the people, your parents, siblings, the community that you grew up in, they all play a part in developing you. And we have this saying from back in the day, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that seems like it's gone to, yeah. It doesn't seem like it's that important nowadays. Okay? And if that's the case, and the village has taken the responsibility, then the village is failing miserably. Okay? And I believe that the village can correct some of the things that are wrong in the earth, which in turn will make people's lives better and cause them to have a greater sense of hope about life. They'll be able to tap into their power and their purpose and be able to see obstacles really as stepping stones, rather than seeing something somebody did or something somebody said or how someone treated you, rather than seeing that as a woe is me, and turn inwardly and create this shell where nobody can get in and you got to defend yourself. And trust me, I know there are people who they feel like they have no one in the world. I understand that. I get it. But there's always someone. There is always someone who will help. There's always someone who will assist. There's always someone who's looking to help. And you can make it better. You can make a different choice from being destructive. But even that, it's a path that leads there. So I said all of that to say this, is that if you haven't learned how to relate to others well, whether it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's not about fault. This is about responsibility. It may not have been your fault, but it becomes your responsibility as an adult. Okay? You've got to make things better in your life. You have the ability, everyone has the ability to do that. And if you're going to be in relationship, and you have to be in relationship, can't live in the world all by yourself. If you're going to successfully be in relationship, you're going to have to learn how to deal with people, which means you have to learn how to deal and handle offenses. Okay?
Yeah.
What is an offense? It's simple. When someone does something to you that causes you to feel hurt, shame, disappointment, okay? There's a list of things. Those are some of the more foundational ones. Hurt, shame, disappointment, fear, anxiety. All of those things lead themselves to you being offended. And when you are offended, what you do is you shell yourself inside of the offense, and you begin fight. It's like a cat backed into a corner. Back into that corner. You don't want to mess with that cat, right? because you're gonna get really you're gonna get the business from the cat. And so that's what happens when you become offended. And obviously there are people that there are different levels of offense. There's that level where, okay, you know something's wrong with that person. And then there's that level where people just smile all the time and, look like everything is beautiful, but they're offended too. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to stop right there so I can answer your next question.
That was a lot. All right.
I know.
Let's see. Okay, so let's see what's a good pivot. So I mean, when people are offended, we're talking about an extreme, which is mass shootings, but when people are offended in general, just to make it relatable to anybody who's on here, it's just like you said, like with the cat that's being backed into the corner, we go on defense, and many times we're also then fighting back, like, everything is offensive to us, we're looking for offense, really.
Yes.
Once we're in that place. So how can we guard our heart against offense? Like, how can we make sure we're not, being, I call it sensitive, and people just so sensitive, but like, it could stem from traumas. It could stem from, different things, like you said, hurt, disappointment, shame, fear, all of those things cause offense, and have, to do with offense. So how can we guard our heart against that? Even touching on in a digital age, like you said, everything's so accessible. So
you really have to be in a place where you constant, how do I say this? You got to always be checking yourself. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're the person who's always checking yourself, when something goes wrong or something fails, my first default is to see what I did to contribute to it. Okay, that's my first default.
Check yourself.
Check yourself first, because a lot of times we get offended because whatever is being said is true. Mm-hmm. Truth offends you more than anything else, right? And so a lot of times we're just not being honest. We're not dealing in truth and honesty. So that's like one of the first places to start, because when you can check yourself first, that first of all is going to position you in a place of humility. Oh God, humility. Wait a minute. That's the last thing I want to be when I've been offended. Exactly. It's the one thing that you need to be when you've been offended is humble. So you have to check your own self, check your own motives. See, why am I offended by this? Why did this make me angry? Why did this upset me? Why did this cause me to feel shame? Okay. 9.9 times out of 10, that's about as close as I can get. 9.9 times out of 10, okay, it has something to do in one way, shape, form, or fashion with me. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because someone can say something to me and it not offend me. Because there's nothing in there for it to grab hold of. Mm-hmm. But if there's something in there for that offense to grab hold of, there's a good possibility that I will get offended by it. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, 9.9 times out of 10, it has something in one way, shape, form, or fashion to do with me. Check yourself first. That would say is what I would say would be step one. Check yourself, right? And ask yourself, why am I offended? All right.
Okay. I would say, you and Mom taught us that, like, how to be very, like, self-aware. And I think that it's caused us to be better humans and how we interact in the world. There was a period in my life where I was very defensive about everything. And it did stem from something very specific. I didn't know, but that's something that I came to unveil. But I remember you having a conversation with me about it, and I didn't even realize, that I was coming from that place. The perspective is I'm protecting myself. I just making sure I'm not going to get hurt, or, you don't even realize it's a defense mechanism for some people, I think. And yeah, it's really unhealthy. And I think that when you do start, like you said, to look at yourself and, start to look and see where it stems from, that you can come to a place of understanding for others, that you can just better view, really you change your view of how people interact with you. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You can, yeah, I don't know how to say that better. So you can change your view of how, you see people interact with you if you check yourself first and don't come from a place of offense. So if, we're doing our part in checking ourselves, guarding ourselves against offense, always looking to see, if we felt offended, okay, what is that? Like, where did that stem from? On the other side of it, how do you maybe deal with friends who cause offense, but they lack awareness? Like they're not aware of how they come off. Like I said, there's a self-awareness that comes with looking at yourself first. But then if you have friends that maybe don't have that same, like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so every relationship, especially friends, right? Because really how you develop your friendships with your friends really prepares you for greater levels of relationship. How you deal with your friends prepares you for how you're going to deal with your husband and or wife, and a lot of people don't believe that, but it does, right? Because offense is offense. Doesn't matter who it comes from, right? And if you don't know how to deal with it, then you don't know how to deal with it. So understanding that the opportunity to develop a really sharp, sensitive, compelling, interesting, caring persona. Okay, that's the opportunity that you have with your friends. Okay, and when each of you have committed to making each other the best version of yourselves, then you surrender to those relationships. Okay. 1908 Dale Street, right? That's where we live. Me and my two roommates. It started out, it was 4 of us, and then it ended up just 3 of us. And one of the things that we did was we created an environment where we all grew. How we created that environment was by submitting ourselves to each other. What do I mean by that? We gave each other the right, okay, to jack each other up. We surrendered to each other to be accountable, okay, to do what we said we were going to do, to live like we knew we wanted to live. We were all saved. We knew we wanted to live for God. We knew that. Our hearts knew, right? And so we were committed to helping each other live saved, okay? So that means that we had to give an answer to each other for our missteps, okay? Even for our thoughts, our missed thoughts, okay? We had this concept called hot seat. Okay? At any given point in time, you could be in the hot seat. You think everything's going hunky-dory, and then all of a sudden, you're in the hot seat, right? And in the hot seat, you can't run, okay? You can't squirm. You got to answer the question. You got it. The fight or flight, you just got to fight. There's no running, right? Because we agreed to it beforehand. Now, were there times that we walked out, stormed out? Yeah, that was all a part of it, but we came back because that's how you grow. That's how you learn to grow. You learn how you know someone is committed to you is when you can fight well with them and love them more after the fight.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about that abuse stuff. I'm talking about fight well. When you fight well, you love the person even more after the fight because you grow. Fighting will causes you to grow. So our hot seat concept helped us to hold each other accountable, you know. And so because of that, we were able to grow together as well as individually, right? I was the first one out of the group to get married. And man, it was glorious. And people literally other people looked at what we were doing in our household and tried to model that. You know, they was like, I know what's going on over there. You know, it was like, man, 1908 deals. You know, they used to talk about what we were doing because, and we didn't do it for other people. This was for us so that we could grow, stay true to who we were, stay holy, live saved, because that was important to us. You know, now if one of us stopped wanting to live saved, that was going to create a problem. Okay. But, and so I said all that to say your friendships will prepare you. They really will prepare you for how to deal with offenses if you just let the natural, you know, the natural processes of relationships. Because in friendships, you've got different personalities, right? Those personalities will naturally rub each other the wrong and right way. And if you just stay committed to the process, it'll eventually grow into an understanding. Okay, and an appreciation, right? When you have understanding and appreciation, those are two deterrents of offense. Okay, so understanding and appreciation are two of the deterrents of offense.
That's good. I'm taking notes too. That's really good. Yeah, what you said about submitting yourself to friendships and relationships, that like takes a lot of trust. And I think the part to recognize about it is that people who are closest to you can see like your blind spots in the areas where you're not able to see, you know. And so being able to commit, having friends that you can do that. So if you have friends and you don't even feel that you could, you know, trust them to have those types of conversations, well, that's a whole different conversation. And so you know, even hearing you say that kind of like affirms some of the relationships that I have in my life, because my friends, we have those tough conversations like when we need to, and they definitely will tell me about myself. And we're okay to have those conversations, you know, and not everybody has that. And so I think that is something to pray about, something to look for when you're looking for people who you're going to call friend. You know, I think we can use that word loosely sometimes. And that person that you can call friend, you know, we need to be able to deal with that other side too. And like you said, fight well. You talked about environment playing a big role. You know, if somebody is coming to the realization like, man, I don't think I have friends like that, or I don't see myself being able to trust the people that I call friends with that, you know, space in my life. You know, how do we look for those right environments? Like, what are some of those signs of the right environments? What can we do to kind of make sure we're in a place to be able to do that?
Yeah, so one of the things we have to be able to do is to take courage. Okay? It takes courage, all right, to develop, to build, to first of all find, build, develop relationship. It takes courage to move away from a relationship that's not healthy. Takes courage. And so a lot of people have ended up in relationships for various reasons, and they're not healthy for them, and they feel trapped or they feel like no one else cares, or no one will really love them, or they don't really deserve any more than they're getting. They don't deserve to be treated in any other way than the way that they've been treated or are being treated. And what I would say to that person is, respectively and kindly, you've been believing lies. Because the truth is that there is someone that can be trusted. Just because no one in your immediate sphere or no one that you have seen seems to be trustworthy, you can't whitewash everybody and say, y'all can't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't found anyone that you can trust yet.
That's good.
Say that.
Yeah.
But don't say, I can't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're locking yourself inside of that offense. Okay, you just cocooned yourself in, and not only can nobody get in, but you can't get out.
Right.
Okay, so you've got to stop believing and repeating lies. There are people that you can trust. There are people who will genuinely love you. You may have to search all over for them, but they are here. There's someone that will genuinely love and care for you and help you to develop without defrauding or abusing you. Let me say that. Without defrauding or abusing you. See, there are a lot of people who don't think that kind of love exists. It does. It does. Okay? And if you need help finding those types of relationships, if you need help getting out of or getting away from, separating yourself from unhealthy relationships, seek help. Okay? Not saying you got to go and find you a psychiatrist or a shrink. No, find some godly man or woman that you can begin dialoguing with. Someone who has the heart of God. Well, why is that important? Because nobody can love you like God can love you. Mm-hmm. Okay? And a man or woman of God, first and foremost, understands that they can't love you either more than God. That's why they love you with the love of God and not with the love of man. And that becomes a very serious thing when people are trying to love you with the love of man. Mm-hmm. Guess what? They will fail you every time. Mm-hmm. Every time. But the love of God will not fail because it will not stop. Just keeps coming at you, right?
Right.
And so you've got to stop believing lies, stop believing and repeating lies, and begin telling yourself something different from what you've been telling yourself. Because you can't control other people. Mm-hmm. You can't do anything about the choices that other people make, but you can do something about the choices that you are making, beginning with what you are saying to and about yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
It does. It does. And so, you talked, those relationships that you had are definitely, I don't want to say hard to come by, but not everybody is, has those relationships. And I think we would consider them relationships where you both are strengthening one another. But there's different types of relationships, and you may be pouring more, or you may be the one being poured into more. And so if you're in a situation where maybe you're pouring more, how can you set up boundaries? So let's, talk about, like, if there is a friend who maybe is offended by a lot, but really it's just their unwillingness to be accountable. It's their unwillingness to see themselves. Like, what do we do in those cases? Is there a healthy way to still have that type of friendship?
There is, and it really has to do with communication and how you develop your communication. If your relationships are not making you a better communicator, then you're not working those relationships. those relationships are not working if they're not making you a better communicator. Okay, your relationship should be making you a better. Every relationship you have should be making you a better communicator, especially the close ones. Okay, and so I talked about this when KT was on with me. The bookends of communication. Okay, the bookends of communication. On one side, you've got the person who's giving the communication or who's presenting the communication, and on the other side, you've got the person who's receiving it. Right? They both have a responsibility, both of them, not just one, both. The one who's giving the information has the responsibility to be aware of, okay, to the best of their knowledge and ability, to be aware of not just what they are presenting, but how they are presenting it, okay, and where the person is. And you can't control that. But you can be aware of it, mindful of where someone is. And when you're mindful of where someone is, when you're presenting communication to them, it causes you to present it in a way that will be easier or easiest for them to receive it. Yeah. Okay, that's the responsibility of the giver. Now, the responsibility of the receiver is to not be offended.
That's good.
Okay, those are the bookends of communication. Okay, and to not be offended, you have to work at that. It's not something that, well, I don't feel offended, I'm good. No, you have to work at not being offended. That means that offense is coming, but you choose not to yield to it. You feel the offense, you feel the fear, you feel the anger, you feel the shame, but you don't surrender to it. Okay, that's the responsibility of the one receiving the information. So obviously everyone don't understand that. That's why you seek help, seek wisdom, seek knowledge, seek understanding from someone who knows better than you, who's been here a little longer, seen a little more, have a little more wisdom. Seek help. We need each other in that way. And so and again, that's a part of humbling yourself. Because most people are dealing with pride. That's why they don't ask for help. Because they're dealing with pride. And all pride is, you know what pride really is? It's the flip side of fear. That's really what it is. It's the other side of fear. If you just tell that person, tell pride to stay right there, don't move, and you just walk around on the other side of pride, when you get to the other side, what you really see is fear. Okay? And so we just kind of, again, it goes back to checking yourself and being honest with yourself, right? We are made in the image of God. The image of God, God is a communicator. So that means that we are communicators. We have to develop our ability to be effective communicators. Okay? And sometimes people think about effective communicators are just people who are in leadership or people, who are on stages. No, we all have to develop our ability to be effective communicators. Okay? And so that responsibility, regardless of what situation you're in, you still have that responsibility. Regardless of what you don't have or do have, you still have that responsibility. Yeah. Regardless of how bad you've been treated or mistreated, you still have that responsibility if you're going to be an effective communicator. Okay? And so, yeah, let's stop believing and repeating lies. Let's find truth. Let's settle into truth. Okay? And let's begin to reshape our view of ourself first. Because when you think about offense, right? And being offended, how you wall yourself in, right? When you wall yourself in, think about your view of yourself. When you walled yourself in, how do you see yourself? And so we just don't, we don't really look at what matters most. What matters most is how I am interpreting, how I am processing the information, the experiences that I've had, how I'm processing them, and what my way of processing is actually doing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Is it causing me to grow,
Right.
or is it stifling me?
Mm-hmm.
Got to answer that question, man.
Yeah.
And you can answer it for yourself. We all can answer that question for ourselves if we're willing to be honest and vulnerable.
Yes. And that's the work. That's the hard part.
That's the work,
Yeah.
man. For sure. That's the work.
So, I mean, we talked a lot about friendships. We're talking about relationships in general. But even if you're considering, you know, a romantic relationship, marriage, you know, that's somebody who's going to see you up close and personal. And when it comes to offense, that's the person who can offend you probably the easiest, right? They know how to,
Yep.
the quickest. Yeah. And
Yep.
so what are you, 32 years? 30, how many years?
31.
31 years of marriage. I think you can tell us a couple of things about, you know, how to make sure, because they're similar, friendship and romantic relationships, but you know, a little bit different when you're considering marriage. And so let's see what I want to ask about that. How did you make it this long? I'm just kidding. You know, what are some ways that you all have kind of grown through that, like as you've grown and matured and found probably better ways to communicate with each other? You know, how do you deal with that? And even check yourself, because you know how you can offend mom, and mom knows how she can offend you. And so even checking yourself, you know, how do you do that? I probably asked a lot in there, but
Hey, listen, it's, you know, we've had to, and we still, now, our greatest asset, I believe, is our ability to, or our willingness to be gracious with each other. Okay? Especially as you start growing older, you know, things change, you change, your body changes, your mind changes, everything is going through some kind of change. And to remain in a covenant relationship, because that's the only real difference between friendship and a romantic friendship is the level of covenant. Okay? And you still, the rudiments are still the same. Okay? You still have to understand the bookmarks, the bookends of communication, even more so then, right? And you have to be gracious with each other. Gracious to forgive, okay? Gracious to ask for forgiveness, right? Gracious to see things a way that's not your own way. Gracious to not have to be right.
Right.
That's huge. That is huge and destroys a lot of relationships. When you're in a relationship, it really doesn't matter who's right. It really does not matter. What matters is, can this outfit survive this situation? That's what matters, right? Because whether you're right or wrong, you're going to have to do whatever you're doing together. Because if one of you is right and the other one's wrong, how are you going to do anything together? No, you're going to have to come to some place where you can, some place of commonality that will allow you to make the best choices, the best decisions that is best for you as a unit and not you as an individual. That's everyday work. That's every day checking yourself. That's every day being willing to be gracious. That's every day pushing down that desire to want to be right. You know, that's every day. You know, that's not something, okay, I've done that, I'm good for the next 20 years. No, it's everyday work. But that's a part of being in relationship.
Yeah.
right? And it starts at the friendship level. If you build friendships like that, your romantic relationships are going to be amazing. They'll be powerful. And most importantly, they'll be purposeful and have longevity. If you build relationship the right way, if you start building in your friendships, you'll build the necessary ingredients so that when you get into a romantic relationship, it will be purposeful and it will have longevity. Yeah.
Mic drop. Yes, good, really good stuff. Yeah. I think my questions are all over the place here. So, you know, the work in the beginning, you said we all have a responsibility to develop our greatness, and the work that you're talking about here is a really big part of it. I think, you know, just from what I've learned from you, we can't really get to that level of greatness without learning how to do relationship, without learning how to, you know, deal with people and communicate well and just learn all of those things. And so you have lots of tools and things that you've developed to kind of help us be able to look inwardly and be able to do that self-work and be able to kind of see some of those things. Sometimes it's just lack of awareness. We're not even aware. And so could you speak to like some of the things, some of the tools that you have, and maybe even highlight something that would specifically speak to this topic?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of amazing books surrounding how to deal with one of the greatest books, right? One of the greatest books that I've ever read was by a man named Dale Carnegie. Okay, this book has been used in sales, and they love to use it in sales. That book was so much greater than just that. You know the name of the book?
Yes. Did you know I was reading that book?
No.
How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one right there. Okay. One of the greatest books on relationship, because it gives you perspective, right? That's important to have. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Tremendous, tremendous book, right? So approaching things in a certain way has to do with your perspective. So what I do and have done, like I said before, the Lord's kind of made me a poster child for purpose and destiny and understanding what purpose is. A lot of people talk about the purpose. I want to know my purpose, but you can't find something if you don't know what it looks like, because you won't know when you found it. And a lot of people are looking for something out there, and it's in here. You know, understanding who you are, understanding what you bring to the table, understanding your gifts, your strengths, your weaknesses, understanding who you are, what makes you flow well, what kind of people you flow well with, what kind of chemistry, what comes off of you. You know, when you show up in the room, what shows up that wasn't there before. You got to know those kinds of things. Building relationships helps you to develop and to know those kinds of things. The first relationship that you really have to build is the one with yourself. Understanding who you are, getting to know who you are. And certainly I'm going to tell you that, you know, it's difficult to know who you really are without knowing who your creator really is, because he made you. Okay. No different from, you know, the manufacturer of a car. All right. If you want to know everything there is to know about that car, go to the manufacturer. Right. In fact, they made it easy for you. They put it all in a book and called it a manual. And everything about that vehicle. And so we've got to understand that developing yourself has to be a high priority in your life. One of the things that the Lord allowed me to do was to, even before I understood that I was doing it, I began to write I used to write poetry. I still write poetry. But during this time, a season in my life, I was writing just for my own sanity. And I would always share with my friend, Merrill McQueen, who's a good friend of mine. I would run everything I did by him. Man, you should put this in a book. He would say that every time I shared a poem with him, man, you should put this in a book. I was like, would you please stop saying that? Because I had no desire and was in no way even think my mind wasn't even there. I was writing for my own sanity. But after about the 200th time of him saying that, I started considering, well, maybe I would, long story short, I ended up writing a book that happened to be a book. And that wasn't my first book. It was actually my second one. But it was a book of poetry called The Dreamer's Diary. These specific poems are what I've now coined as motivational poetry. Okay? Motivational poetry, okay, is communication that encourages the heart. First of all, enlightens the mind, encourages the heart, inspires the will, and lifts the spirit. Okay, does one or all of those things. And so I noticed at some point that everything I was writing was doing that. Okay, and so after writing A Dreamer's Diary and it literally becoming like a foundation for my own development and growth because of what I was writing, eventually ended up turning that into a curriculum. Okay, a curriculum that became, foundation for courses that I teach on my school, on my online platform, Get Clear Institute. I had an opportunity to work at House of Hope, which is a residential program for hurting teens, where I tested this stuff with teenagers, right? They don't care what you know, they care. One thing they care about is, can you love me, right? And can you help me in my situation and circumstance? So I got a chance to really test this stuff out with those kids, and man, I'd love to. I want to start talking about that because testimonies all day long about how helping someone to begin to say something different about themselves and write what they were saying and then say it back to themselves, how it changed their perspective and how it changed their view of themselves. So I said all that to say is that my coaching really centers on helping people to see themselves not just differently, but helping them to see the real you, the real gift that you are in the world. Okay? So if you want to check out some of this stuff, some of my courses are in getclearinstitute.com. You can go there and just check it out. There's some free stuff on there, some paid courses on there. Check it out. If you want to hit me up, you can hit me up. You can send me a message on there. You can email me from there. If you got questions or if you would like to explore what it would look like to be in a coaching session, we'll do all of that. Have strategy sessions and the whole nine that that you can certainly begin to explore. I released an audio book called Redefine Your Original Design last year, and I'm actually working on the ebook now. I did that and put it on my online platform as an audio book. I'll be releasing the ebook probably in the next couple of months or so. But you can also find that on Get Clear Institute as well. Wonderful story about defining your original design, because it helps you to begin to look at yourself in a way that you may not have looked at yourself before. It helps to begin to give you language that you may not have used as it concerns yourself before. And beginning to use a different language about yourself begins to turn and shape how you are currently seeing yourself, and you begin to understand that there is more to you than you know. So those are some of the things that I assist and help people with, and I will be more than happy to assist and help anyone who's watching, or if you know someone who's had a difficult time building just relating to and with themselves, understanding who they are and seeing themselves in a healthy way. Hook me up with them or hook them up with me, let me know who they are, give them my information, or however we can connect. I would love to be able to connect with you. All right, that's it. You got anything else?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think we have any questions below. So
Cool.
I think this was good. I don't want to prolong it. I have more questions, but
that would be episode 4.
yeah.
I mean, that'll be part 4, episode whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. All right. So every other Tuesday, join us back here again. We'll be doing it again. Another topic, or maybe an extension, maybe part 4 of this topic. We'll decide between now and then if there is something specific that you would like us to discuss. We approach topics from the place of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that comes from above. So we're always going to give you not our opinions. We're going to give you the wisdom that comes from the word and the wisdom that comes from a life lived according to that word. So if you have a topic that you would like to that you would like for us to discuss, or you have questions, man, hit us up. Hit me up on here on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube, on Facebook, Tim Jones, and on here, Getting Clear on Instagram. So let us know if we can be of assistance to you. Thank you again for joining in with us. And until next time, remember, live full so that you can die empty. Good night, everybody.
Good night.